Hello everybody and welcome to Dinsmore Simulations. I'm Dinsmore Sim. This is our second episode in the series for Ark Ascended, in First Steps, Learning the Basics. And in this episode, don't worry if you've not watched the first one, we're going to do a bit of a quick recap. But in this episode we want to now move from knowing absolutely nothing. Hopefully you've learnt some details in the first episode about the general mechanics, how to interact with things, and now we're going to be focusing this episode on understanding early survival. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So I'm returning to where we left off last time, and I wonder whether some of you have been exploring the game in between, or maybe you've watched the first episode and you've come straight on to the second episode. Because in the first episode we were concerned mainly with the mechanics of moving around, getting used to how to use our character, and just staying on the beach in a relatively safe area that we've spawned. We've talked a little bit about dinos, but only briefly for those that we've interacted with, and we've started to create a few weapons. We've sorted out our access for water and our food. We've got our campsite here. One thing I hadn't finished as part of the last session, we'd created the things required for the water skin. Oh no, and this is what happens on Ark, so already getting attacked. So I didn't do anything there, but some creatures can be territorial. Now this one has stopped attacking me and it's not particularly ferocious, but it's coming for me and I'm going to kill it. So let's see how we get on. So it only actually took 3 hits, so that gives me a little bit more meat. Now you might notice on the left there was something else that popped up. Looked like a blue substance of some kind. When you look at this in the inventory, you'll see it's organic polymer. Incredibly strong, lightweight plates, somehow naturally made in certain creatures, and incredibly hazardous to human health if consumed. Doesn't give you much more information than that. I can tell you it's something that you're not going to need right at the beginning, and this is organic polymer, and we do have in the game polymer that can be collected similar to how we collect metal. So, sorry, that's not true. You can collect another type of material and you can combine it to make polymer. So it's definitely more advanced than where we're at. At this stage I wouldn't particularly worry about it. You can get them from these penguin type creatures, or you can get the other type of polymer later. So for the moment actually we're going to drop that, because we were talking in the previous episode about our weight cap, and we're going to try and resolve a couple of those things. So as I said, as part of the introduction for this one, really what I want to now start doing is expanding into early survival. And what I mean by that is really getting a little bit more settled. So we've interacted with a couple of things. We even had random dino attackers. That's, as I said before, something that you really have to watch out for when you're in these menus, because everything is still live. You can hear the campfire roaring behind me there. So you've always got to be on your toes. It's something that I find is really exciting about the game, but can also be incredibly frustrating when you're in the middle of doing something. Maybe you're preparing for something, or you're crafting something, and then before you know, a T-Rex just turns up and kills you. It is both the things I love about this game and also the thing that really annoys me about the game, but I think the longer that you play it, the better you're going to get at navigating and surviving those challenges. So, as ever, our points are going up. We've got some other options here. I'm going to put that into health. We still have those points available that we haven't allocated yet. We've got 76 now, and we're going to be exploring that very shortly. So, since that creature completely distracted me, I'm going to see if there's anything else we can interact with. I'm just going to come along here because there's actually something on the ground. So I'm going to walk over this. Now, did you see what that said? So this is an explorer note. And I mentioned this briefly in the previous episode. Explorer notes, if you see in the bottom right hand corner now, creates a buff. And if I press V, and go to any active buffs by clicking show buffs, you'll see Special Explorer note found quadruples XP. So there's a couple of ways of thinking of this. For those that play PvP and PvE, they use this early game because in PvP more specifically, you really got to survive the day and the second, and everything's out to kill you, including all the other tribes and all the other people on the map. So people tend to do what they call note runs, and they will go for these XP buffs. And you can actually build these up, so you can collect maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 along the way, and then go out and build things and kill things, and that will get you through the levels a lot quicker. In single player, I tend to not worry so much about that. I think the advantage of the single player is you can play very much at your own pace, and certainly for me, a big part of the game is enjoying that, enjoying the experience of playing it and going through at a level that suits your playstyle. So, as I say, if you want to speed through it, that would be something to definitely be mindful of. There are loads of Explorer notes all over the map. I've been playing this game for a good while, and I still have only collected a fraction of these. So, start to get an idea for where they are on the island. I've shown you this first one. We might see some more as we interact. So anyway, this is counting down, so I think this is an opportunity for me to go on to the next part that I wasn't going to do until a bit later, but I'm going to get started now, which is to do a little bit of exploration. So if you remember from the map, if I go back to my map again, I can press M. See him at the bottom here, and it looks perfectly fine. There's a bit of water either side, and then it takes me inland. So I'm going to follow the beach here, and I'm going to just start exploring the map a bit. We came across the dodos before, and you can attack these. You shouldn't be too worried about dodos. You can be picking up materials. Again, watch your weight bar. At the moment I'm about 55% of my weight capacity, 60%, something like that. So the more I interact with things and start crafting and picking up materials, very soon I'm going to become encumbered, and then that's going to be slightly problematic. So I'm not going to do loads of this, but because I've got the experience bar there, I want to try and take advantage of it. So a couple of things that we can interact with already. You can see we've got both juvenile and baby dodos, so anything that isn't an adult is effectively a baby, and they give you slightly different things. So if I attack this baby, you'll see on the left there, that happened very quick. I got a different type of meat appear. So from babies and juveniles you get raw prime meat, and if you have a look here, eating raw prime meat, again, raw is not healthy, but it's an excellent cut, but spoils very quickly. Most wild carnivores will love this meat. So as we start doing some early exploration, you can see that actually the prime meat is really good value. So for the minute, rather than worrying about going all the way down the beach that way, I'm going to go back to my fire, wherever I put that. And this is the other joy of playing the game, you can never remember where things are. And we're going to see what happened with the previous meat I was cooking. So that's all been cooked. If you remember, you can just press T to transfer, so that acts very quickly. And in the previous episode I mentioned there's only 2 spaces in here. Did you just see that? I think something just dropped from the sky. These sorts of things happen all the time in Ark, so I'm not going to apologise for being super jumpy. I play this game wearing headphones and it's hilarious and terrifying, so that may happen at some point in our episodes. Anyway, if I go back, you can see already the meat has started to cook. So as soon as it's cooked, I can transfer it back, and I can transfer something else into the available slot. I'm going to just stick here for a minute because I've only got 4 of those, and you can see the health bar on the raw prime meat is actually dropping pretty quickly. Now in the early game you don't necessarily need to have raw prime meat, you can certainly survive on cooked meat with no issue, and most creatures are going to give you the normal raw meat. As I said, babies and juveniles are going to give you the raw prime meat, but this is more relevant when we get to the stage of wanting to tame some dinos. For the moment, I still want you to be very much thinking that you're in explore mode, with our general principle being we're not going to try and do too much too soon, and we're going to try and get established. I am going to show you a couple of the other world mechanics, and I'm probably going to take on a couple of dinos to show you what happens when you die. It's definitely something that I want you to experience early on. It was something that I actually was a bit concerned about when I played the game and thought, oh, I can't possibly die, and you've got to just play it and get through it as best you can. You are going to die all the time. It's going to be random creatures that attack you, it's going to be really annoying things that happen to you, you're going to accidentally jump off a cliff, you're going to be on one of your flyers and accidentally eject yourself off the seat and come crashing down to earth. All these things will happen at some point. So why not? Let's explore it together, and hopefully it will happen a few times less. A couple of other things I'm seeing here. Do you remember you can add things to the hotbar? And I'm going to just reorder things slightly. I like to have the water on the final one. The reason why that looks like it's not shown, by the way, is because there isn't water in it, so I actually need to get that filled up. So I'm going to go and fill that up in a second. The rest of this is then fine. We've got a little bit of meat in there, 10, and that's cooking away. It's got 88, so I can leave that. Can you see I've still got that buff on there of 213? So I'm going to continue doing, and I'm going to get a little bit more water. Oh, I ate a bit more food, but that was okay. So I've done that on the 0. Again, you can use the shift key to be running around. One other thing I didn't show you on the mouse as a default, typically on most mouse you have extra buttons. So on my left mouse button it opens up this radial if I press and hold it. If I go to emotes, I can share with you lots of really nice interactions. But what I can also do is take my hat off, and I just like the way that this looks. So if you press and hold and then click, that's the way to do it. So if you remember, I came across one of these before, and you'll start picking up the names of the dinos as you go. This is a Dilophosaurus, and you'll see it takes a bit of damage there, level 55. It's not doing loads of damage if I let this hit me for a bit, but you'll see that starts to drop down quite quickly. Headshots are always going to do more damage. And again, we can be collecting more of our materials. So you can see already I'm about half of my damage has been used just on that small creature. So don't underestimate how terrifying this game is, because with a very small creature I've already got to the point where I might have died. So we're going to go a bit further on. I've just found another one, and actually this presents a good opportunity. So again, this is level 55, it's not super strong, but you've got to watch out for these. They fire this kind of venom, and this could happen if you only had one spear, and before you know it you're getting attacked and then you're dead. So it can literally happen as quickly as that. And that's it. And you know, when that happens first time you think, okay, I have no idea what's happening now. And then you just think the whole game is over. Well, that's not really it, and actually you're going to be dying lots and lots. So I wanted to share that with you. I wonder whether you've been exploring in between the first and the second session and you've had lots of opportunities to die already. What I forgot to mention at the end of the first episode was, if you haven't got a spawn point set up, then when you die, all of your materials are going to stay where your body is. So you'll see on the map here, it is really helpful, it shows your last death on the map. And because I haven't set up any kind of base and I haven't set up any spawn point, I now have to respawn on the map. So of course I want to be as near as possible to my materials. If I click on one of these over here, I'm going to be too far away and it's going to take me ages to get to it. Now of course I could continue somewhere else and not go back for all my gear. But you can imagine as you start going through the game, if you've had maybe some loot drops and you've got some really interesting gear, especially before you've got a base, you're just going to end up losing all your loot, and that's going to take you ages to get back. Because bear in mind, it took us a bit of time to get some of the initial materials together so that I could sort out some clothing and sort out some initial weaponry. So you could probably click on either of these. I think for the moment, again, I'm going to still encourage you to go with the easier spawn, because this is likely to put me on the other side of the river. And if you remember from the previous episode, the river does have piranhas in it. Again, at different points, if you're spawning, by the way, you'll see in a minute when you spawn, you have nothing on you. You then either have to try and quickly craft something, or you have to try and just run for it. You could try that, but it might take you quite a bit longer to get back. So my best advice to you is try and spawn as close as possible, and we're going to see where this throws me. This is a bit of a gamble, and we're going to see how near it puts me to it. It could also put me right next to a dino. Okay, so you might recognise where we are, and I don't know if you recognise that sound already. That is a loot drop, so we are actually quite near the campfire base. And again, if I press the M twice and use my scroll, I can actually scroll really closely in on the map. The good thing is the last death marker will stay there for the last death. The problem is if I die again, then it only says the last death marker. It will save the previous one, and it has a counter against it. But sometimes you can find that it removes the marker altogether, and this can make finding your gear really tricky. Second thing is to ideally die in a spot where you can access your gear, and you just want to go up to your inventory, press E, and then quickly transfer everything. You can see I've got this fella already there, and I'm going to get killed again if I don't hurry up. So I put all my materials back in, and I was ready to attack him. Now, anybody who has ever played this game before and seen you can get attacked by these seagulls, and they are really annoying. It's probably the most annoying part of the early game, because now I'm just going to get stalked by this thing, and you basically can't get rid of them. So the only way to get rid of them is to kill them. So they circle you like this for a while. What happened? I think I killed it. Nope. So they circle you for a while, and then they just swoop down and attack you. But what they do is they steal things from your inventory, and what they tend to do is steal all your food. So these can be really annoying. But there we go, I managed to kill it. So for the moment, that's just something to bear in mind. By the way, with the spear, you can also throw the spear, but there is a bit more skill required to do it. I've not been particularly good with it. Where I'm using left to poke, I can use right to do the spear, and then I can press left. It's right, and then I can let go with right. But like you say, just totally missed that. Now my spear's gone all the way over here. You can actually pick them up. So if I run down and try and get it, I think it should actually go back into my inventory with a bit of luck. Perhaps not. And also, I was quite lucky there because I managed to get out of aggro from the seagull because I was running away. Now, supply crates. Do you remember we talked about the supply crates being at different levels? This is a blue level, and I need to be at level 25. I'm currently at level 12, but I have got an extra 12 points to upgrade. So all of that experience I had from that survivor note that I picked up gave me an extra 12 points. So I'm going to put some of these into melee. I'm going to put another one into health. I'm going to put one into weight, and yeah, I think a bit more into melee. You see already I'm on level 24, so if I can upgrade one more level and do it before this health bar reduces, then I'll be able to get the loot in this blue drop, and that would be a really good first step. Just a couple of other things to notice. We're starting to get into the evening. It's now 20 past 8 on my first day, and I'm going to be losing light fairly soon. You can see it's actually just moved. There was a cold buff next to me, but because I went back to the campfire, that's removed. You see, as I've moved away, that's come back. So again, it's all about surviving and trying to do things that will help you continue in the game. Now, hopefully you're starting to learn some of those sounds. That was me upgrading my level, so I'm going to click on that. That takes me to level 25, and I now have access here. So this is a really good loot drop. You've got a couple of options. Once the health of this supply crate drops, the whole thing will despawn. So as a general rule, I would transfer all. The challenge with that is, if these end up being heavier than my total weight, which it may be, I may end up being encumbered, and if you've got animals around, you can really put yourself in a position where you end up getting killed almost straight away. So again, you could click this, so if you're in a hostile environment you might want to do that and just leg it. The other option might be to go individually, so you could just press T and continue to do that. I've actually found a pike there, which is amazing because that's going to replace my spear. Water jar is an upgrade to the water skin that I've got. Arrows will be fantastic, I'm going to need those shortly. Rare flower not so important, but I will take them at this stage. And I've got some gauntlets. I'm going to talk about armour probably in a little bit, and I've got a saddle, and we'll talk a bit more about that. Now if I take that, that might just take me over my weight restriction. So you'll see I'm actually pretty close on my weight. So I need to try and resolve that. Remember, at this stage, what I'm wanting you to think about is just exploring. And you see already lots of things have happened. And the game can feel a bit like that. In this early game, things can escalate quite quickly because it really just depends on what's happening in the game and what's interacting. So on that basis, why don't we go back to the inventory? There's a couple of things I want to tidy up. Every time you respawn, your old implant is added in, so you can drop that, you don't need it. Meat, by the way, will spoil, and you will be wanting spoiled meat later, so if you've got capacity, you might want to leave that in. Now in terms of berries, berries are pretty easy to get, and we got those quite quickly in the previous episode, so if you're wanting to lose some weight, that might be something to think about dropping. So it's O to drop, and I'm going to do that on most of these berries, so I'm going to keep one of them there just in case I need them. Also, the narco berry can be used for narcotics, so we're going to keep hold of those. All those other things are actually quite important. We had all of our gear. That doesn't automatically go back on you when you pick up your equipment, so I need to put them back on, and you'll see I've taken a little bit of hit damage, so I could repair them. I could right click, I'd have to unequip them, but I could right click here, and as long as I've got enough in my inventory it will repair it. I can put it back on. These are only small amounts, so I'm not going to worry about them at this stage. Now, since I've been really lucky with this blue drop, I would do a couple of things. I would swap out the water skin, because the water jar allows me to hold a bit more. I think the water skin you get 2 drinks, and I think with the water jar you get up to 4. In addition, I get a pike. Now this is a great weapon. This is really kind of an upgrade from the spear, and the pike is a good upgrade because it's a metal tool. And this is really where the next stage of progression is within the game. So all of the tools at the moment are in stone, and ideally we want to be able to use metal and create metal tools. This has jumped me straight away, so this is why the drops are really useful and really important, but you do have to be careful. If I've got a drop on a different side of the map, I might have to cross a river which has piranha in, they're probably going to eat me. I might end up coming into contact with a really dangerous carnivore that can overpower me, can run up to me, I won't be able to escape from. So I would still say be cautious at this stage and just see what you can do within your local area. So a couple of the things we can be looking at already. Now that I have some of these things added in, can you see that my weight has reduced? So I am technically okay now, and I can run around without too much issue, but because I'm just on the border of being encumbered, my shift won't actually make me run any faster. So I might decide that there are a couple of things I want to throw. The other thing I might want to do is start building. Now we're not going into loads of detail on building at the moment, we're going to leave that for a future episode, but I am going to start to show you some of the other engrams, because this is really where you're going to be exploring next. So we have different building materials in the game, and the cheapest one and the first one that you get access to at level 4 is your thatch. So wherever I've got any of the thatch building materials, I'm going to discover these. And again, once you start playing the game, you'll see the main building blocks that you use more and the ones that you use less. So we've got a sloped wall, we've got a ramp, we've got a roof corner, so those are all the thatch materials. If I go a bit further, I've got a railing as well. And then if I go a little further again, you start to see at level 11, that's when we get the next upgrade. So the next upgrade for your base would be wood. And these get progressively better as you continue. So it's really up to you and your playstyle as to what you want to do when building a base. You could decide to build a simple base, you could decide to just build a space to store some items, which I'm going to show you now, or you might decide you want to upgrade to a better quality material. But of course, if I start building things out of wood at this stage, I'm going to need 80 wood for one block of wood foundation, which means it's going to take me quite a long time to do that. So this is why at the beginning of the series I was discussing the game in general and saying you've got to be someone who enjoys a sandbox game and enjoys grinding, because there was definitely a lot of grinding in this game, and especially in the early game, until you can make that more optimal by getting creatures that can help you get the materials in a much more efficient way. So at this stage, if we have a look, we've opened up quite a lot of levels, and actually if I go all the way down here, I can go as far as level, well actually I've opened up quite a lot, level 25. And the next milestone really is level 20, because it's at level 20 where the metal materials add up. So for the moment I'm going to show you these, and I'm going to add these engrams so that you can start to explore building these as your next immediate materials. This is by far going to give you the quickest upgrade within the game. So between those beginner levels and some of the engrams that I've not selected, all the way up to level 20, there are loads of other engrams that you could select, but of course I only have 199, so I have to start being a little bit more selective with them. So as you continue to play the game, you'll start to get a better sense for these engrams and which ones you want to use and which ones are going to be most relevant. Some of them are map specific, so for example preserving salt we need sulfur. Sulfur isn't, I believe, readily available on this map. So some of these things are better suited for other maps, similar with salt here. Again, you wouldn't know that until playing the game more. So at this stage I don't tend to use my engrams on preserving salt, but I might open it up later once I've got into some of the later engrams. So to help you with a couple of other things, this is our first storage box at level 4. Again, could have done that right from the very beginning. Decor box is just a little bit of custom cosmetic, and there's a ladder there, we could open that one if we want. You do have the sleeping bag, but the sleeping bag is only for a single use respawn, so it can be helpful if you don't have anything else. It's a fairly low purchase price of hide 25 and fiber 15, but if you go a little bit further down to simple bed, this needs all of those same materials we started collecting in the first episode, and so I'm going to select that. It's going to automatically upgrade the sleeping bag engram, because there are some that require an earlier engram in order to be unlocked, and it will just give you that warning message so that you're aware. So that is probably going to be the next valid upgrade, because then you've got a save spot. We've started to think about storage, and we've started to think about build materials. And so if I look around, it's coming up to 11 o'clock at night. It's still quite cold, but I'm next to my fire, so I'm keeping nice and safe. That's all cooked. So again, you want to just keep an eye on that, because that's going to keep changing. I might as well cook some more whilst I'm here, but I definitely want to start thinking about crafting something. So if I go back to my crafting, storage is going to be really important, but most items in the game cannot be placed on the floor. You have to place them on a foundation. And so the easiest and first option would be a thatch foundation. So I'm going to attach both of those, and the easiest thing to do will be to go and farm for some thatch. Remember what we said earlier about the different weaponry? You're going to be able to get access to the different materials, but you can see already I'm getting close to the point where I'm encumbered now on weight, and for me this is the real challenge of the early game, and it's something I wanted to show you at this stage. I'm going to need some more fibre, so actually I've prioritised that, because as soon as I start getting thatch from here I'm probably going to be encumbered. So a slightly better strategy, even though I'm walking quite slow now, is to try and find one of those trees we found earlier that is specific for thatch. And then if I use, which I think is this one, I can't quite see, then if I use my pickaxe I should also get lots of thatch, and you can see actually that's created thatch. So if I now go and create some items, I can create my thatch item, and I'm only 5 fibre away from creating my storage. I'm still pretty high on my weight capacity, so we're going to see how we do. I've got 4 fibre there, that's got me 7 fibre. So I've actually been able to do that without getting completely encumbered. Now the issue is I can't move fast now, so if I get attacked by anything else I'm really going to struggle. I have a couple of options here. I could start throwing things away, but again I'd encourage you to think about that, because again at this stage you're going to think, well, I don't know what cementing paste is, I don't need it. Again, I don't want to spoil too much of the later game, we're going to develop that, but some things are more important than others, and I would just encourage you to start thinking about keeping lots of things and deciding later what you want to do with it. A big part of certainly ascending arc is collecting and storing materials, and as a general rule I would say you want to just collect and store everything. It's much better to have an oversupply of things than to not have the things that you might need. So with that in mind, is there anything here that I can throw away? Well, I don't really need the water skin, but it's nice to have as a reserve, because remember, if I die and I'm away from my body, I might not have anything. I might not get back my journeyman pike, I might not be able to get back to my materials, in which case having the water skin somewhere near my base, or at least where I've put down a thatched foundation and put down a bed, might be the best option. So is there anything else that I can throw away? Well, we talked about the rare flowers. For the moment I can't do anything with it, and actually that's 15 on the weight. So out of everything short of saddles, but saddles are really high value for things, it's probably not so helpful, so I'm going to throw that one away. That hasn't actually helped me too much on the weight, but you can see wood is also quite heavy, but again I'm going to be using wood a lot, so I would actually, since I'm fairly close to everything, not worry too much about that. And I'm going to put my thatch there. I'm going to look for the storage, because quite often once you've created things that will drop your weight, and in fact that's what's happened as soon as I've created the storage. So by doing those few things, that's freed me up to be able to move a little bit quicker. So do think about weight reduction. You want to think about that early on. As I said, it could have been mitigated by putting more engrams into weight, but of course then that means I'm not putting so many into health and into melee, which might mean I'm more likely to die from creatures. So here we go. I can create a piece of thatch, and now I have access. Now the good thing about the storage is, I know I said you can't place things down. Storage is one of the things that you can place down. So you can actually do that without having a foundation. For the moment I'm going to put it on my foundation, and I'm going to place it here at the top. You might have also heard that my campfire's just gone out, so I'm going to just check back on that, and it needs, remember, either thatch or wood. I've got quite a lot of wood and it's quite heavy, so I'm actually going to move over to wood. But I don't have any more meat to cook, so at the moment actually having that on isn't necessarily helping me, but it is giving me some light, and if you see again, my cold buff in the corner has disappeared because the heat is on. So again, in this early exploration you want to prioritise setting up your base and thinking about building things and structuring things in a way that allows you to make quick progress, but in a way that doesn't make developing through the game more problematic. Like anything, you have to try these things, so maybe you try it and it doesn't quite work out and you die and you have to respawn, you do something else. So here I'm just going to put down all the heavy items, maybe the items I don't need anymore, and make a decision from there. I've still got quite a lot of food here, so I could put some food in there as well. The cooked meat actually gives me a little bit more fullness when I eat it, so actually I'm going to do that. And I don't really need to worry about holding on to berries at the moment. I'll keep a few in, so I've got something I can munch along the way in case I run out of food, but I don't think that's going to be an issue either. And just to show you, I've just used one of those, and can you see already that the food bar has basically got to the top? So you are getting quite a bit more for that food as well. So what have we managed to do already? We've managed to explore the beach a little bit more. We've talked a bit more about storage and how to reduce that. We've talked a bit more about things to manage at night time and the value of drops. So the only thing really left now to do is to explore a couple more of the dinos. And so let's go and have a look at this first dino. So as ever with these dinos, this one is level 35, which is quite low on my settings. Remember, headshots are going to give you the best attack, and because I've got this pike, I'm getting a really good melee attack score for my level. So actually that didn't take much to kill it. Now, you don't have to kill dinos, you can tame them, but for today we're just going to be focused on early survival tactics. So at this stage we're looking at what creatures now beyond the Diplodocus can we start going up against. And it looks like the turtle is fairly straightforward. Did you notice, by the way, there was some additional things that came out of the turtle? So we actually got keratin. Firm flexible material can be found in animal horns, plates, shells and ridges. At this stage you don't know what that is used for, but one tip I would give you is, if you're particularly savvy, you can go into the engrams and start looking at what is required for each of the items. That will take a little bit of looking through, but you can then start to get an idea of maybe some things that you might need in the future. So for example, if you want the spyglass, this instrument is quite effective at long range reconnaissance. So this is helpful if you're wanting to check the level of a wild dino. You don't have to go straight up to it, you can use the spyglass and it will give you that information. But you can see we need fibre, hide, wood and crystal, and we currently don't have access to crystal. So this might start to give you some ideas about new things that you want to try and find and explore in the world. So I think that covers quite a lot within our episode, which was to really start some basic exploration in and around your base. You can see here I can attack the local dinos, and I can do that quite easily. That's going to allow me to put a little bit more food on the campfire. I'm going to be able to stay nice and safe and secure. Looks like I've created an additional resource by burning my wood, which is charcoal, and I can remove this, so I can remove this back. I'm going to check whether I've got any more space in my storage, which I do have, and I could put one of these things in. I can't store anything else, but I do have more hide, which will fill into the hide slot, and typically they cap out at, I believe, 200. So I hope you found this episode useful. Remember, this has been about trying to understand early survival. So as you continue to explore this on your own, feel free to maybe travel further down the beach. Maybe if you're feeling particularly brave, start going up to some other creatures that you've seen on the island. But just bear in mind that if you're doing that, you're quite likely going to die. And if you're going to die, what do we need? We need a bed. So the final thing we need to do is have a look at our bed and what is required. I'm going to get rid of these other two, and you can see we need 40 hide. I'm going to transfer these back over. I need 80 thatch, which I don't have. I need wood, which I don't have. And I need fibre, of which I need 30. So you can see already these things are required quite early on. So if you were to spend half an hour just collecting loads of fibre, or collecting loads of wood, or loads of thatch, again, that might feel that that's quite an efficient way to play the game. Some people don't want to do it in that way, and they want to do it per item. But you can see already I've got as much fibre as I will need for the initial simple bed purchase. I can get a bit more wood here, and I've actually got as much wood as I need, so I'm going to go to pickaxe so that I can prioritise thatch. And remember, you can still do that from trees, it's not going to be as efficient, but since I haven't got loads of the other trees around, and I just want to get as much of the immediate materials that I need, I'm going to just use that. And that now gives me enough materials to be able to craft my simple bed. I'm going to go back to my menu. You can see how many things are now highlighted alongside all the other building materials, which might encourage you to start thinking about your first base. So, however you want to play the game, it's really down to you. This will at least help you with some of those immediate challenges. If you die, you can respawn back to here. If you have too many things and you're too heavy, you can start to store them in your storage. You already know how to cook, you know what food to eat. We were lucky with our food drop, with our item drop I mean, and everything else seems to be well prepared. So on that basis, we're going to finish this video. I hope that's all making sense for you. If you've enjoyed it, do make sure to subscribe. Hope to see you on the next video. For now, explore, analyse, simulate, and I'll catch you next time.